A young nurse is hired to care for a wealthy man in a vegetative state. Despite facing skepticism from his guarded wife, determined to help him recover, she employs unconventional methods, leading to an outcome that surprises everyone years later. Welcome to Ideal Stories. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming stories. Kendra Brown adjusted her name tag on her pristine white uniform as she gazed at the grandeur of a mansion before her. The wrought iron gates opened soundlessly, revealing a winding pathway lined with meticulously maintained gardens. Clutching her small suitcase, she felt her palms grow clammy. This was her first day as a private nurse for Andre Bing, a famous business magnate. The butler, a composed man named John, greeted her with a formal bow. "Welcome, Miss Brown. Mrs. Bing is expecting you in the study," as she followed him through halls adorned with exquisite artwork worth more than she could earn in a lifetime. Kendra couldn't help but feel the weight of the environment. Angela Bing was exactly as Kendra had imagined, an impeccably dressed woman in her 40s, with perfectly styled hair and subtle but unmistakably expensive jewelry. Her sharp eyes assessed Kendra as if appraising an object. "Miss Brown, I trust you understand the significance of this position," Angela said coolly, her voice as cold as the marble beneath their feet. "My husband requires constant, meticulous care. Any mistakes will result in immediate termination." With practiced calm and professionalism, Kendra replied, "I understand, Mrs. Bing. I will dedicate myself fully to caring for your husband. John will show you to your quarters and my husband's room. Sundays are your days off from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., during which another nurse will take over. Any questions?" "No, ma'am. Everything is clear." Andre Bing's room was in the west wing of the second floor. It was a large, well-equipped space filled with advanced medical devices to monitor his condition. On the hospital bed lay his motionless form, a stark contrast to the vibrant man in the photographs scattered throughout the house. As the butler outlined the daily routines and procedures, Kendra's gaze rested on Andre's peaceful face. Despite months in a vegetative state, his striking features hinted at the dynamic life he once led. "Mr. Bing was always full of energy," John said, noticing her interest. "He managed his businesses personally, excelled in equestrian sports, and had a soft spot for cats, especially Russian blues." Kendra absorbed every detail, her mind already brimming with possibilities. This wasn't just a routine assignment. Something about Andre Bing's situation, confined and isolated in his own grand home, deeply resonated with her. That evening, after settling into the room adjacent to his, Kendra pulled up a chair by Andre's bed. "Hello, Mr. Bing," she whispered softly, taking his hand. "I'm Kendra, and I'll do everything I can to help you come back to us." The heart monitor beeped steadily, and for a moment Kendra thought she felt the faintest twitch in his fingers. It might have been her imagination, fueled by her determination to make a difference. Still, she felt certain this marked the beginning of a transformative journey for them both. As the estate fell silent under the cover of night, Kendra reviewed Andre's medical records, scribbling notes and brainstorming strategies. Her expertise in neurological rehabilitation would prove critical, but she sensed that reaching him would require something beyond conventional methods. It was close to midnight when she finally readied herself for bed. Moonlight spilled through her window, casting eerie shadows over the manicured gardens and ancient trees. As sleep overtook her, Kendra realized stepping through the mansion's gates had already changed the trajectory of her life. At dawn, she began her routine. By 6 o'clock, she was at Andre's bedside, performing basic procedures and observing her surroundings. The room, though tastefully decorated, felt cold and uninviting, mirroring the current state of its occupant. Dusty equestrian trophies and framed photographs on the shelves offered glimpses of the active, vibrant man Andre once was, now silenced and still. "Good morning, Mr. Bing," Kendra greeted warmly, pulling open the curtains to let sunlight flood the room. It's a beautiful day, the perfect one for us to get started. As she checked his vitals, Kendra hummed soft tune. It was a habit she had developed, believing music could bridge even the deepest silences. Immersed in her notes, she barely noticed Angela entering, her heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. "I see you've begun your work," Angela observed, standing at a distance from the bed. "I should let you know I'll be leaving on a business trip next week. I'll be gone for 15 days. Kendra noted how Angela's gaze barely lingered on her husband. "Understood, Mrs. Bing. You can rest assured I'll take good care of him." "Good. John will handle anything else." Angela turned briskly and left, her expensive perfume lingering in her wake. Once alone, Kendra began implementing her ideas. She moved Andre's bed closer to the window to let in more natural light and rearranged the room, bringing cherished photographs into view. Gradually, she transformed the sterile environment into a space that radiated warmth, one she hoped might stir something within him. "You know, Mr. Bing," Kendra said as she worked, "your records mentioned you loved classical music. How about starting the day with some Mozart?" She connected her phone to a portable speaker, letting the soothing notes of Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 21 flow through the room. As the serene melody filled the air, Kendra kept her eyes on the heart monitor and noticed a subtle change in its rhythm, a small but encouraging sign. That afternoon, while guiding Andre through passive physiotherapy exercises, Kendra began sharing stories from her own life. She spoke about her childhood in the countryside and how her grandmother's miraculous recovery had inspired her to become a nurse. "You might be wondering why I talk so much," she said with a soft smile as she massaged his arm. "But I believe that every word, every sound, and every touch can act as a bridge to help bring you back." By the end of the day, Kendra had established a care routine that went beyond the standard protocols. She incorporated music therapy, aromatherapy, and sensory stimulation into her approach, determined to uncover the key to awakening Andre from his silent world. One evening, as Kendra reviewed her notes, John, the butler, entered with a cup of tea. "I've never seen anyone give Mr. Bing this level of care," he said, his usual formality softened by an unfamiliar warmth. "I believe he's still in there, John," Kendra replied, accepting the tea. "We just need to find the right way to reach him." John hesitated briefly before speaking. "There's something that might help." Mr. Bing had a Russian blue cat named Tsar. They were inseparable. After the accident, Mrs. Bing sent him to the country house. Kendra's eyes lit up with hope. "A cat, that could be exactly what he needs. Do you think we can bring Tsar back?" "I can arrange it," John said, a rare smile breaking through his typically stoic demeanor. Mrs. Bing rarely visits the country house, especially with her upcoming trip. The revelation filled Kendra with renewed determination. Each new detail about Andre's past felt like another crucial piece of the puzzle that might guide him toward recovery. That night, as she gazed at the moonlight casting silvery patterns across her room, Kendra envisioned the next steps in her plan. She was certain that Tsar's presence could awaken dormant emotions and memories within Andre. The week flew by, and as Angela left for her business trip, Kendra could barely contain her anticipation. John confirmed that Tsar would arrive that afternoon, discreetly brought over by the caretaker from the country estate. During her morning routine with Andre, Kendra couldn't hide her excitement. "You won't believe what's coming, Mr. Bing," she said, straightening his sheets with a bright smile. "I think it's going to be a wonderful surprise." At exactly 3 p.m., John appeared at the door, carrying a regal Russian blue cat with mesmerizing green eyes. The cat surveyed the room with calm curiosity. Kendra held her breath as she caught sight of Tsar. He was even more magnificent than she had imagined. "Tsar!" John called softly, placing the cat gently on the floor. For a moment, the cat stood still, its ears twitching as it adjusted to the unfamiliar surroundings. Then, as if recognizing the space, Tsar moved elegantly toward the bed. Kendra and John watched in wonder as Tsar jumped onto the bed, and padded toward Andre's side. The cat sniffed Andre's face before curling up beside him, resting its head on his neck. "Incredible," Kendra whispered, her gaze fixed on the heart monitor. "John, look." His heartbeat just changed. The butler moved closer, his expression softening as his eyes grew misty. Mr. Bing and Zar shared a special bond. He brought Zar back from Russia as a kitten. That afternoon, Kendra observed the captivating interaction between Andre and the cat. Zar refused to leave Andre's side, purring gently or simply remaining watchful. What fascinated Kendra most was how Andre's vital signs subtly shifted whenever Zar moved closer or adjusted its position. "This is extraordinary," she said, jotting down notes. "It's as if his body recognizes Zar's presence, even if his mind hasn't responded yet." Inspired by Zar's influence on Andre, Kendra decided to bring more familiar items into the room. With James' assistance, they retrieved some of Andre's personal belongings. His favorite watch, a cherished photo album, and even his signature cologne. "We're going to create a space that stimulates his senses and triggers his memories," Kendra explained to John. "Anything that might help him wake up is worth a try." The usually reserved butler embraced the effort wholeheartedly, sharing stories from his many years of service under Andre. "He was a fair man, always generous," John recalled as they arranged the items. "I never saw him treat anyone with anything less than kindness and respect." Later that evening, as Kendra observed Andre and Zar, something remarkable happened. When Zar stretched out near Andre's face, Kendra thought she saw a faint twitch in Andre's lips, a small attempt at a smile. "John!" she exclaimed, her voice full of excitement. "Did you see that?" The butler rushed over, his eyes wide. "Yes, miss, it was a movement. I'm sure of it." Without hesitation, Kendra began conducting response tests, speaking gently to Andre and lightly touching his face. Although the movement didn't repeat, she was certain this marked a breakthrough. "This is only the beginning," she said, gently stroking Zar, who was now peacefully asleep beside his owner. "Every small reaction brings us closer to waking him up." Before heading to bed, Kendra carefully documented every detail of the day's progress. Her mind raced with possibilities for the future. If Zar's presence could trigger such a response, who knew what other breakthroughs might be waiting just ahead? "Tomorrow will be another day full of potential," Kendra whispered to Andre before leaving the room. Zar briefly lifted his head, meeting her gaze with his piercing green eyes, then returned to his spot beside Andre, resuming his quiet vigil. For the first time since arriving at the mansion, Kendra fell asleep that night with a smile. Hope and determination filled her heart, and she felt certain that she was on the right path, that each small success was leading them closer to the moment when Andre would break free from his prolonged silence. The following days brought a renewed energy to the Bing mansion. Zar's presence had undeniably transformed Andre's room. The cat remained by his side at all times, a constant companion whose loyalty touched everyone who witnessed it. With Angela still away, Kendra decided to take bolder steps in her therapy. On a bright, sunny morning, she envisioned an ambitious new addition to Andre's rehabilitation. "John," she said during breakfast, "do you think we could unlock the balcony doors in Mr. Bing's room? I'd like to take him outside for some sunlight." Andre hesitated. "Those doors haven't been opened since the accident, but I can get the keys." With the help of 2 regular nurses, Kendra carefully prepared Andre for the move to a specialized wheelchair. Zar watched intently, as though overseeing the process with unwavering attention. "All set, Mr. Bing?" Kendra asked, gently applying sunscreen to his face. "Let's feel the fresh air again." As the balcony doors creaked open, the scent of blooming roses wafted in on a gentle breeze. Kendra positioned Andre's wheelchair in a sunny spot, making sure the warm rays touched his face. Almost immediately, Zar jumped into Andre's lap, settling down as if it had been their routine all along. "Remarkable," John murmured, his voice tinged with nostalgia. It's just like the old days when Mr. Bing would sit out here for hours, working on his laptop with Czar by his side. Kendra noticed a tear slipping down James' cheek, though he quickly wiped it away. It was clear that his connection with Andre went beyond duty. It was built on deep respect and admiration. As the morning passed, Kendra began describing the garden to Andre, painting a vivid picture of the flowers' vibrant colors, the rustling trees, and the cheerful birds. Then an extraordinary moment occurred. Andre's fingers twitched, as though reaching for something invisible. "John!" Kendra gasped, her voice trembling with excitement. "Did you see that?" The butler rushed over, his expression full of awe. Yes, I saw it clearly." Overcome with emotion, Kendra quickly performed response tests, holding Andre's hand and gently urging him to squeeze her fingers. After a few quiet moments of focus, she felt it, a faint but undeniable pressure. It was small, nearly imperceptible, but unmistakable. "That's it, Mr. Bing," Kendra encouraged, her voice full of emotion as she struggled to stay composed. "You're doing it. Keep going." That afternoon marked the beginning of a new phase in Andre's treatment. Kendra introduced a routine that included regular sessions on the balcony, always with Czar present. She also began bringing in familiar items, business papers, equestrian magazines, and travel photos. "Every stimulus counts," she explained to John as they sorted through the materials. "We need to stimulate not just his body, but also his memories and emotions." Each night, as Kendra recorded her observations, she allowed herself to imagine the possibilities unfolding before them. The subtle movement of Andre's fingers was no accident. It was a hopeful indication that his consciousness was beginning to resurface. "Tomorrow we'll try something different," Kendra said softly to Czar, her quiet companion during the late hours. "Perhaps we'll bring in some music from the piano in the living room. Andre used to love listening to concerts." The cat blinked slowly, seeming to approve, before curling back up next to Andre. Kendra watched them, feeling a warmth in her chest. There was something extraordinary happening, something that went beyond the professional relationship between nurse and patient. Before going to bed, she opened the curtains, letting moonlight flood the room. The silver light shimmered off Czar's bluish fur, creating a scene that felt almost enchanted. It was as if the universe itself was helping Andre piece himself back together. "Good night, gentlemen," she whispered, closing the door quietly. In the hallway, she ran into John, whose eyes now held a renewed glimmer of hope despite the hardships he'd endured. "Miss Kendra," he said, his voice sincere, "in all my years, I've never seen anyone so devoted to Mr. Bing's recovery. Thank you." The next morning, Kendra woke with determination, ready to carry out her latest plan. With John's assistance, she moved a digital piano from the music room into Andre's bedroom. While smaller than the grand piano downstairs, its clear, resonant sound would be just right for their purpose. Mr. Bing always hired pianists for his events, John explained as they set up the instrument. He had a special love for classical music, especially Chopin. Kendra, well-versed in music therapy, was ready. "Music activates brain regions other stimuli can't," she explained as she connected her tablet to the piano. "Particularly music that holds emotional significance for the patient." She began playing Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, Op. 9, No. 2, one of Andre's favorites, according to John. Czar, ever watchful, perked up as the first notes filled the room. Then something incredible happened. As the soothing music enveloped the room, a single tear rolled down Andre's cheek. Kendra, closely monitoring his reactions, felt her pulse quicken. "John," she whispered urgently, "look at this." John rushed over, struggling to hold back tears. "My God, he's crying!" With great care, Kendra wiped the tear from Andre's face, observing significant changes in his vital signs. "This is incredible," she murmured. "It's a clear emotional response. He can hear us, and he's feeling something." Encouraged by this breakthrough, Kendra expanded the music selection throughout the day, alternating classical pieces with recordings of concerts Andre had attended. She carefully tracked his responses, and during a particularly moving part of a Beethoven sonata, Andre's fingers twitched again, this time with more purpose. Gently holding his hand, Kendra felt a distinct pressure. "That's it, Mr. Bing," she said, her voice calm and reassuring. "Squeeze my hand again." To her amazement, Andre squeezed her hand firmly in return. Czar, sensing the significance of the moment, purred loudly and nuzzled Andre's arm. Overwhelmed, John couldn't hold back his tears. "In all these months," John said, his voice thick with emotion, "I've never seen him react like this to anything." The rest of the day, Kendra focused on alternating between musical therapy and hand exercises with Andre. She carefully recorded every response, even the smallest signs of progress, in her journal. Yet, as she reflected on the day's accomplishments that evening, a troubling thought lingered. Angela would be returning soon. How will she react to all these changes? Kendra murmured to Czar, who sat calmly beside John. The cat blinked slowly, as if acknowledging her concern. John entered, bringing Kendra her nightly cup of tea, a comforting ritual they had developed. "Miss," he said carefully, "perhaps we should think about how to explain these changes to Mrs. Bing." Kendra nodded, understanding his worry. "You're right. We need to approach this carefully. We can't risk the progress we've made." As she sipped her tea, she started to form a plan for Angela's return. Despite the uncertainty, her resolve was unwavering. Nothing would stand in the way of Andre's recovery. "Tomorrow we'll try olfactory therapy," she said to herself. "I've brought essential oils that might trigger old memories. And maybe we'll even try something bolder." John raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Bolder?" With a spark of determination in her eyes, Kendra smiled. "I was thinking about his horses. John, does the equestrian center where he used to ride still exist?" The following morning, Kendra began the aromatherapy session with Andre. She had researched how scents could help trigger memories and had selected fragrances that would be meaningful to him. "Let's start with something familiar," she said, opening a bottle of Andre's favorite cologne, the one he wore every morning before his accident. As soon as she brought the scent close to Andre's nose, he reacted immediately. His breathing changed, and his fingers, which had been more active recently, made a faint, grasping motion. "Remarkable," John commented from his position near the door, watching intently. "It's the cologne I used to give him every morning after his bath," Kendra explained, continuing the therapy with other scents. She introduced leather, reminiscent of his riding boots, cedarwood, evoking the warmth of his office, and the fresh scent of roses plucked from the garden earlier that day. Czar, ever watchful, sniffed at the bottles curiously, his green eyes following every move. The cat had become an invaluable part of the therapy, often reacting whenever Andre showed progress. When Kendra introduced the rose scent, something incredible happened. Andre's lips moved as if trying to form words. Kendra leaned in quickly, her heart racing in anticipation of a breakthrough. "Mr. Bing," she called gently, "are you trying to say something?" His lips moved again, more distinctly this time, though no sound emerged. John, clearly emotional, rushed over. "Keep going, sir," he urged, his voice shaky. "We're all here with you." Kendra asked simple questions, encouraging Andre to respond with lip movements. After several tries, they were able to make out a yes when she asked if he could smell the roses. "This is incredible!" Kendra exclaimed, barely containing her excitement. "It's the first clear attempt at communication." The session continued for hours, as Kendra alternated between various scents and other stimuli, carefully documenting every response and noting changes in Andre's vital signs. Later that afternoon, as Andre rested, Kendra and John gathered in the library to plan the next steps. John had brought in old photo albums filled with pictures from different stages of Andre's life, hoping they might trigger memories. "Take a look at this one," John said, pointing to an image of Andre on a majestic black horse. This was taken the day he won his first equestrian championship. I've never seen him happier. Kendra studied the photograph closely. Andre's beaming smile and bright eyes contrasted sharply with his current condition. The equestrian club's facilities were visible in the background. "John," Kendra asked, her mind working quickly, "how many days until Mrs. Bing returns?" "We have 5 days, miss," he replied. "And the equestrian club? How far is it from here?" John immediately understood her train of thought. "It's about 20 minutes by car, but transporting Mr. Bing could be risky." "Not necessarily," Kendra responded, her determination clear. "I've moved patients in similar conditions before. With the right equipment and an ambulance, we could bring him to experience the environment, the sounds, the smells." John hesitated, torn between caution and the possibility of progress. "Mrs. Bing would never approve of this." "That's why we need to do it before she comes back," Kendra said firmly. "John, look at the progress he's made. Imagine what revisiting a place where he was happiest could do for him." After a brief silence, John nodded slightly. "I'll make some calls. I still have the manager's contact information." A spark of hope ignited in Kendra, and she quickly set about planning the visit. Czar, who had been resting by Andre's side, gave a soft meow, as though silently agreeing with her resolve. Over the next 2 days, Kendra organized every detail of the visit, planning with precision. John had secured permission from the club and arranged for it to be nearly empty during their time there. "The ambulance is scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow," Kendra told Andre during their nightly meeting. "Dr. Anderson will accompany us, and I've arranged for 2 experienced nurses to assist." John handed her an old folder. "I found this in Mr. Bing's office. It's filled with photos of the horses he trained over the years." Kendra flipped through the images, pausing at one of the same black horse she had noticed earlier. "This one seems particularly significant," she said. "That's Emperor," John replied with a nostalgic smile. "He was the master's favorite. Emperor is still at the club, retired now, but he was the horse Mr. Bing won his most important titles with." The following morning, there was a sense of nervous excitement in the air. Kendra took charge of Andre's preparation, selecting his clothes, including his treasured old riding binget, which he had kept in perfect condition. Kendra prepared for a special day ahead as she adjusted Andre's portable monitoring equipment. Czar observed curiously from his usual spot, his gaze fixed on the flurry of activity. The transport to the equestrian club was carried out with utmost care, the ambulance moving slowly through the tree-lined streets. Kendra stayed close to Andre throughout the journey, monitoring his reactions. Upon arrival, they were greeted by Mr. Davis, the club's longtime manager. Seeing Andre in such a condition moved him, but he remained composed. "Everything is set up as you requested," he said, leading them to a shaded area near the stables. "Emperor is in the paddock next door." Kendra ensured Andre was positioned in a way that allowed him to take in the familiar sights and smells of the club. The air carried the scent of stables, fresh grass, and leather saddles. Suddenly, a powerful neigh echoed through the air, and Emperor, sensing the presence of his old companion, trotted over to the paddock fence. The majestic black horse, despite his age, carried himself with grace. Then something extraordinary happened. Andre's eyes, usually half closed, opened wide, his breathing shifted, and his fingers moved with more strength. "Doctor!" Kendra called urgently, her voice trembling. "Come see this." Dr. Anderson rushed over to assess Andre's vital signs. "Incredible," he muttered. "There's a significant increase in brain activity." Emperor stayed close, his head extending toward Andre, sensing the bond. Mr. Davis spoke softly, his voice filled with emotion. He recognized him. After all this time, he still knows his rider. Kendra, following her instincts, gently raised Andre's hand toward the horse. "Look, Mr. Bing, Emperor is here. He came to see you." To everyone's amazement, A tear rolled down Andre's cheek. Then his lips moved, and this time a weak but distinct sound emerged. The room fell silent. Kendra, Dr. Anderson, and Mr. Davis exchanged stunned glances, unsure of what had just occurred. He spoke. John exclaimed, tears in his voice. After all this time, he spoke. Kendra's heart raced with excitement. In that moment, they had achieved more than in weeks of therapy. Her instincts had been right. Revisiting a familiar environment and triggering old memories had played a pivotal role in bringing Andre out of his vegetative state. The return journey to the mansion was filled with renewed hope. The medical team documented Andre's reactions during the visit, and Dr. Anderson was visibly optimistic. "What we saw today was remarkable," he said, while examining Andre back in his room. The attempt to vocalize, combined with motor and emotional responses, signals a significant improvement in his neurological state. As Kendra organized her notes, Czar, who had been restless during Andre's absence, jumped onto the bed and resumed his usual position. He sniffed Andre carefully, seemingly aware of the changes. "We need to keep up this momentum," Kendra said, already planning their next steps. "Dr. Anderson, can we intensify the stimulation sessions?" The doctor nodded, adjusting his glasses. "Absolutely. Today's responses provide solid support for a more aggressive rehabilitation program." John, who had been quiet since their return, spoke softly. "Miss Kendra, Mrs. Bing returns in 2 days." The reality of Angela's imminent return weighed heavily on everyone. The progress made during her absence had been significant, and now they needed to explain it. "I'll prepare a detailed report," Dr. Anderson offered, understanding the delicacy of the situation. "One that includes scientific data to show the effectiveness of the new approach." That night, as Kendra wrapped up the day's tasks, she noticed a subtle change in Andre. His eyes, more alert since their visit to the club, seemed to follow her as she moved around the room. Kendra approached Andre's bed, softly calling his name. "Mr. Bing, can you see me?" To her astonishment, Andre blinked deliberately, his eyes opening in a conscious movement, not the usual automatic reflex. "Can you blink twice if you understand me?" she asked, her heart racing. Slowly, Andre blinked twice. "John!" Kendra called excitedly, urging the butler to hurry in. "Watch this!" The butler, still in his kitchen apron, rushed into the room. "What's happened?" "Look," Kendra said, turning back to John. "Mr. Bing, can you blink twice again?" Andre blinked twice once more. "My God," the butler whispered, leaning against the wall in disbelief. "He's really conscious." Kendra wasted no time, conducting a series of simple tests, asking Andre to blink once for no and twice for yes. His responses, though slow, were accurate and clear. Just as she was about to call Dr. Anderson, Kendra noticed something even more remarkable. Andre was trying to move his lips. Leaning closer, Kendra could barely make out the faint sound of Andre speaking. "R.A.," he whispered, clearly saying her name. Tears welled up in Kendra's eyes as she held his hand gently. "Yes, Mr. Bing." "It's me," she whispered. John, with tears in his eyes, whispered, "It's a miracle." Czar, sensing the moment's importance, purred and nuzzled Andre's shoulder. Dr. Anderson arrived soon after for an emergency evaluation, conducting a series of neurological tests. After each test, it became clearer that Andre was waking up. "This is extraordinary," the doctor said in awe. "In all my years, I've never witnessed such a rapid recovery." Kendra, though overjoyed, couldn't shake the concern about how Angela would react to the changes. How could she explain that Andre had started waking up after being thought to be in a permanent vegetative state? The next morning, there was a new energy in the mansion. The news of Andre's awakening had spread, filling the staff with hope and nervous excitement. Kendra, with a renewed sense of purpose, began her morning routine, greeting Andre warmly. He blinked twice in response, showing he was feeling well. John entered the room with a tray of breakfast and news that Angela had moved up her return and would be home that afternoon. Kendra's heart sank at the unexpected change. They had one more day to prepare. "We need to act fast," Kendra said, quickly making plans. "John, can you arrange an emergency meeting with Dr. Anderson? We need to be ready." The morning was filled with frantic preparations. Dr. Anderson arrived with a detailed report on Andre's progress, and the team rehearsed how to present the situation to Angela. "Remember," the doctor advised, "even with the progress, Mr. Bing still has a long recovery ahead. We must avoid raising unrealistic hopes." By 2 p.m., Angela's car pulled up to the mansion, and the tension in the air was palpable. She stormed into the room, her gaze sweeping over the unusual scene. "What's going on here?" she demanded. Then her eyes landed on Andre, who was now staring directly at her. For a moment, Angela seemed frozen, as though she could hardly believe her eyes. "Andre," she whispered, approaching him slowly. In a moment that left everyone speechless, Andre parted his lips and produced a faint but distinct sound. The room fell silent as Angela stood frozen. Disbelief etched across her face. Slowly, she turned to Kendra and Dr. Anderson, her voice shaky. "Can someone explain what's happening here?" Dr. Anderson stepped forward with professional composure. "Mrs. Bing, while you were away, we implemented several new therapies that have led to significant progress in your husband's condition." Kendra watched Angela closely, noting the shift in her demeanor. The woman who had always been distant now appeared vulnerable, a side Kendra had never witnessed. "Progress," Angela echoed, barely audible. "But all the doctors said it was impossible." "Medicine doesn't always have all the answers," Kendra replied softly. "Mr. Bing has shown incredible willpower." Angela moved closer to Andre, her eyes locking with his. "Can you hear me?" she asked, her voice trembling. Andre blinked twice, signaling yes. Angela covered her mouth, fighting back tears. "How? How did this happen?" Her voice, once sharp, was now filled with confusion. Kendra explained the therapies they had tried, including music therapy, aromatherapy, and the visit to the equestrian club. As she spoke, Angela's eyes widened in shock. "You took him outside the mansion?" she asked, her voice returning to its usual stern tone. "Without my permission." "Mrs. Bing, it was a medical decision," Dr. Anderson interjected. "The results speak for themselves. Your husband is responding. He's communicating." Angela, clearly torn between joy and frustration, said, "I need a moment," before quickly leaving the room. Kendra exchanged concerned looks with Andre and Dr. Anderson. They understood Angela's reaction, but it was clear the coming days would be challenging. Balancing Andre's progress with Angela's concerns would be tricky. Meanwhile, Czar, who had been quietly observing the scene, gently approached Andre, purring as if to offer comfort. Kendra noted how the cat seemed more attuned to Andre's emotions than his own wife. The days following Angela's return were tense. Her constant questioning and interference disrupted the routine Kendra had carefully established. "Why does he need to listen to classical music all day?" Angela asked one morning. "And this cat, he shouldn't be on a patient's bed." Kendra remained calm. "Mrs. Bing, music therapy has been crucial to your husband's recovery, and Czar has a calming effect on him." Angela looked unsettled. "And these balcony sessions, is it safe to expose him like that?" Dr. Anderson, who had been visiting daily, stepped in. "Mrs. Bing, I assure you, all procedures have been thoroughly reviewed. Andre's progress is undeniable." Despite the tension, Andre continued to improve. His ability to communicate, although still limited, grew stronger each day. He could now form short phrases, though with difficulty. One afternoon, while Kendra was helping Andre with physiotherapy, Angela stormed into the room. "I need to talk to you," she said firmly. In the study, Angela closed the door behind them and confronted Kendra, her emotions clearly at odds. What exactly is going on here? I'm doing my job, Mrs. Bing, Kendra replied calmly, taking care of your husband and helping with his recovery. Recovery, Angela repeated, bitterness in her voice. Do you know what I've been through these last few months? The doctor said it was irreversible. I had already accepted. Accepted what? Kendra pressed, sensing a breakthrough. Angela sank into an armchair, her rigid composure crumbling. I accepted that I had lost him, she admitted, her voice trembling, that the man I knew would never return. She looked at Kendra, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. And now you come in, and in just weeks. Kendra approached gently. Mrs. Bing, I understand this is overwhelming, but the truth is, Andre is coming back. He needs support and love. Love! Angela scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping her. You think you understand our relationship? The years of... She paused, as if realizing she'd said too much. Kendra, sensing the depth of Angela's pain, gently pressed. Years of what? For a moment, Angela was silent, but then her emotions spilled over. Years of pretending, smiling for the cameras while our hearts broke behind the scenes. Kevin and I. Our marriage was more of a business arrangement than a real union. She wiped away a tear. When the accident happened, a part of me, a terrible part, felt relief. Kendra, stunned by this revelation, listened as Angela continued, her voice softening. Seeing him fight to come back, seeing the way he looks at you, I realize how much I failed him, how much we failed each other. Kendra's heart tightened. Angela, it's never too late to change things. Andre is here. He's recovering. You have a chance to start over. Angela met her gaze, a spark of determination appearing through her tears. You're right. We do have a new chance. And this time I'll do things differently. As they left the study, they found John in the hallway, his expression full of concern. Miss Kendra, Mrs. Bing, and Mr. Andre are asking for you. The two women shared a significant look before rushing to the room, where they found Andre more alert than usual, his eyes shifting between Angela and Kendra. Is everything okay? He asked, his voice strained. To everyone's surprise, Angela approached and gently took Andre's hand. Yes, my dear. Now everything is okay, she replied. Kendra watched closely, sensing they had reached a turning point. Angela's confession, Andre's determination to recover, and her own dedication to the case were now intertwined into a complex but hopeful situation. Meanwhile, Czar, ever observant, nestled between Andre and Angela, solidifying a new bond. The future remained uncertain. But for the first time since arriving at the mansion, Kendra felt they were moving forward together. Over the next few weeks, the atmosphere at the Bing mansion noticeably shifted. Angela's confession had marked a pivotal moment, not just in her relationship with Andre, but also in her approach to his treatment. Kendra watched as Angela became more involved in Andre's recovery. The woman who had once seemed aloof now spent hours by her husband's side, reading to him and reminiscing about their past. Do you remember our trip to Greece, Andre? Kendra overheard Angela one afternoon, her voice soft and tender. That's when you introduced me to red wine. Who would have guessed that years later, we'd be here, rediscovering each other? Andre, whose speech improved daily, responded with a weak but sincere smile. I remember you hated wine, he said. Kendra smiled at their exchange. It was as if the couple was rebuilding their connection, piece by piece, memory by memory. Andre's physical progress was also remarkable. With physiotherapist's help, he began to regain movement in his arms and legs. Each small favor, holding a spoon, moving a toe, was celebrated. One afternoon, during physiotherapy, Andre amazed everyone by sitting up unaided for a few seconds. Angela, watching, couldn't hold back her tears. You did it, my love, she exclaimed, rushing to embrace him. It was the first time Kendra had heard her speak so affectionately to Andre. Dr. Anderson, who closely monitored Andre's recovery, was visibly excited. "What we're witnessing is truly extraordinary," he said during a team meeting. "The combination of medical care, alternative therapies, and, if I may say, the power of affection is yielding results beyond our expectations." However, the journey wasn't without its challenges. There were difficult days filled with frustration. Andre occasionally grew frustrated with his limitations, and Angela sometimes reverted to her old detachment. During those moments, Kendra kept the team focused, reminding them, "Every small step is a favor. We can't afford to give up now." One night, as Kendra finished her notes, Angela came to find her in the office. Her expression was serious, but her eyes held a tenderness Kendra had never noticed before. "Kendra," she began hesitantly, "I wanted to thank you, not just for what you've done for Andre, but for helping me see things differently, for giving me a second chance with him." Kendra felt a lump in her throat. "Angela, you don't need to thank me. I'm just doing my job." "No," Angela insisted. "It's more than that. You've brought life back to this house. You've given us hope when everyone else had given up." They shared a long, silent look, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Kendra realized that Angela had stopped being merely the wife of the patient and had become an ally, perhaps even a friend. That night, as Kendra settled into bed, she reflected on the progress they had made. The mansion, once steeped in sadness, now felt alive with hope. Andre was fighting his way back. Angela, once distant, was softening, revealing a depth of love she had kept hidden. As Kendra drifted to sleep, she realized that the true miracle was not only Andre's recovery, but the emotional healing happening within all of them. Autumn arrived at the Bing mansion, painting the gardens in gold and red. With the change of seasons came a new phase in Andre's recovery. One crisp October morning, Kendra entered Andre's room to find him already awake, sitting up in bed with pillows curled beside him. The change was undeniable, not just in his posture, but in the brightness of his eyes. "Good morning, Kendra," he greeted, his voice raspy but clearer than it had been weeks ago. "I think I'm ready to try something new today." Kendra smiled, filled with pride and hope. "That's wonderful. What do you have in mind?" "I want to go outside. Feel the sun," he replied. The idea of Andre leaving his room for the first time in over a year filled Kendra with excitement and a sense of challenge. She began organizing the logistics with John and the nursing team. When Angela arrived, dressed for a business meeting, Kendra shared Andre's request. "He wants to go to the garden," Kendra said. Angela repeated the words, surprised. "He wants to go outside." Her concern was evident. Kendra reassured her. "Is it safe?" Angela asked softly. "With proper precautions, yes," Kendra confirmed. "I thought you might want to be there for this moment." Angela paused, glancing at her watch. To Kendra's surprise, she started removing her blazer. "The meeting can wait. This is more important." The plan to take Andre to the garden was meticulously arranged, involving a special wheelchair and the nursing team. As they moved slowly through the mansion's hallways, Angela walked beside Andre, holding his hand, her face reflecting both worry and hope. Upon reaching the veranda, Andre closed his eyes, basking in the warmth of the autumn sun. A tear escaped his eye. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "I almost forgot what it was like." Angela knelt beside him, tears in her eyes as well. "Oh, Andre, I'm so sorry it took this long to bring you here." Andre smiled gently. "We're here now. That's what matters." Kendra observed quietly from a distance, feeling like a silent witness to a deeply personal and transformative moment. The couple, once distant, was now reconnecting and embracing a new chapter together. In the weeks that followed, Andre's garden visits became a regular part of his recovery. With each outing, he grew stronger and more present. His speech also improved steadily, allowing him to hold longer, more meaningful conversations. One day, while outside, Andre called Kendra over. "I need to tell you something," he said, his voice full of emotion. "You didn't just save my life. You saved my marriage, our future." Kendra's eyes filled with tears. "Mr. Bing, Andre," he gently corrected. "After everything, I think you can call me Andre." Angela, who had been nearby, joined them. "Andre and I have been talking. Once he's fully recovered, we want to start a foundation to help others in similar situations." Kendra was moved by the idea. "That sounds amazing," she responded. "And we want you to lead the project," Andre added. The suggestion took Kendra by surprise. It was an incredible opportunity, an expansion of her work that would allow her to help even more people. But it would also require a major shift in her life and career. As she processed the news, Czar, the cat who had been a comforting presence, appeared, weaving between the wheelchair's legs and hopping onto Andre's lap. The cat's soft purring seemed to approve of the idea. The golden autumn light filled the garden, and Kendra felt on the cusp of something new and exciting. The mansion, once filled with sadness, now thrummed with possibility. Looking at Andre and Angela, she saw their love and gratitude and knew her decision had already been made. This journey, which began as a simple nursing job, had grown into something much more meaningful, a new beginning for the Bings and for her. With a smile, Kendra nodded. It would be an honor to lead this project. Under the autumn sky, a new chapter in their lives began. The months that followed brought both challenges and successes at the Bing mansion. Winter arrived, dusting the gardens with snow, but inside, the warmth of hope and determination continued to grow. Andre made impressive strides with daily therapy and exercises. He could now stand for short periods and take a few steps with a walker. His speech had improved to the point where he could express more complex thoughts and even joke around. "You know, Kendra," he said during a physiotherapy session one day, "I never thought I'd be so happy just to tie my own shoes." Kendra adjusted the equipment with a smile. "Every step forward is important, Andre. You've made remarkable progress." Angela, watching the session, added with a loving smile, "He's always been stubborn. Now, that stubbornness is finally working in his favor." The transformation in the couple's relationship was striking. Where there had once been coldness, there was now warmth and mutual understanding. Angela spent more time at the mansion, balancing her business commitments with supporting Andre's recovery. Yet, the journey wasn't without its struggles. There were tough days when progress seemed agonizingly slow, and Andre occasionally lashed out in frustration, struggling with his ongoing limitations. After a particularly difficult therapy session, Andre became overwhelmed with frustration. "I can't do this anymore. I'll never be the person I was before," he exclaimed. Kendra and Angela exchanged worried glances. But surprisingly, it was John, the butler, who stepped forward with a calm demeanor and spoke softly. "The man you were before wouldn't have come this far. The man you are now is much stronger." Andre paused, the anger and frustration in his eyes softening as he considered John's words. After a deep breath, he nodded and wiped away his tears. "You're right. Thank you." This moment highlighted that recovery was not only physical, but emotional and psychological as well. Meanwhile, the plans for the foundation began to take shape. Kendra dedicated time to research and meetings, working closely with Andre and Angela to define the project's mission. Andre expressed, "We want to offer others the chance I was given, to help those doctors have written off." Angela, handling the legal and financial aspects, added, "We've already garnered interest from investors. Your story has inspired many." Kendra was energized by this new challenge and the potential impact it could have. Yet, she also wondered about the future, especially when Andre no longer required constant care. One evening, as Kendra was organizing notes, Angela surprised her with tea and asked an unexpected question. "Kendra, have you ever thought about having your own family?" The question caught Kendra off guard. Well, I suppose so." "Someday," she replied. Angela's smile was knowing. "Just curious," she said. "Andre and I were talking. At first, we thought we'd lost our chance at a family. Now we're starting to think about it again." Kendra was moved by Angela's words. The thought of Andre and Angela starting a family after all they had endured touched her deeply. "That would be wonderful," she responded sincerely. Angela looked thoughtful, her eyes reflecting both hope and uncertainty. "It would be a new beginning for us. And Kendra, we want you to be a part of that journey. Not just as the Foundation's director, but as family." Kendra was deeply touched. Over time, the Bings had become more than just patients and employers. They had become friends, almost family. That night, as Kendra lay in bed, she reflected on how much her life had changed since arriving at the Bing mansion. What began as a professional challenge had transformed into a journey of personal growth, friendship, and purpose. She felt grateful for being part of something so meaningful and looked forward to the future. Spring arrived at the Bing mansion, bringing not only the rebirth of nature, but also major changes for everyone. The garden, once a symbol of Andre's lost life, had become a place where his greatest achievements occurred. One sunny April morning, Kendra was greeted with an unusual buzz of excitement. John, the butler, met her with a rare smile. "Miss Kendra, I'm so glad you're here," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "The master has a surprise for us." Curious, Kendra followed John to the garden, where she was stunned to see Andre standing, supported by a walker, but clearly bearing his own weight. Angela stood by his side, a proud hand on his back. "Andre!" Kendra exclaimed. Andre grinned with determination. "Watch this." Slowly, step by step, he walked across the stone path, Angela ready to assist, but he continued on without faltering. When he reached the end of the path, he opened his arms wide. "I did it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Kendra, overwhelmed with joy, rushed to hug him. "Andre, this is incredible." You walked." Angela, through tears of pride, explained, "He's been practicing in secret. He wanted to surprise us all." The rest of the day was a celebration. News of Andre's achievements spread quickly, and soon the mansion was filled with doctors, therapists, and friends, all eager to witness the miracle. Dr. Anderson, observing Andre walking, could only shake his head in amazement. In all his years of practice, Dr. Anderson had never seen a recovery like Andre's. "You've defied all expectations, Rob," he said, impressed by the progress. Later, as the excitement from the celebration quieted, Kendra found Andre and Angela sitting together on the veranda, taking in the sunset. Czar, as always, lay comfortably on Andre's lap. "Kendra," Andre called out, his voice warm. "Come join us. We have something important to share." As Kendra approached, she could see the joyful expressions on both their faces. Angela spoke first. "Kendra, do you remember our conversation about starting a family?" Kendra nodded, her heart racing with curiosity. "Well," Angela continued, her voice emotional, "we're expecting." Kendra's heart soared with happiness. "Oh my God! That's wonderful! Congratulations!" Andre squeezed Angela's hand, his smile full of pride. "It's early, of course, but we wanted you to be the first to know. We wouldn't be here without you." Tears filled Kendra's eyes as she reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point, a symbol of all they had overcome. Angela exchanged a glance with Andre. "There's one more thing," she said. "We'd like to ask you." Kendra, intrigued, waited. "Would you be our baby's godmother?" Kendra, overwhelmed, could only say, I'd be honored." As the sun set, the three of them, soon to be four, stayed on the veranda, discussing the future. They spoke of the Foundation's launch, preparing for the baby's arrival, and the many possibilities ahead. Kendra reflected on how her life had changed. What began as a simple nursing job had evolved into a deep connection with Andre and Angela, making her an integral part of their family. That evening, Kendra said her goodbyes, her heart full. As she walked to her car, she looked back at the mansion. The warm lights in the windows filled her with hope for what was to come. The future, once uncertain, now held infinite possibilities, and she knew they would face it all together. A year passed since Andre and Angela had shared their pregnancy news, and the big mansion was now full of life. On a sunny Sunday morning, the property was decorated for a special event. Balloons fluttered in the breeze, and banners read, "Welcome, Favor." Kendra arrived early, carrying a teddy bear and flowers. Andre, now walking with a cane, greeted her with a smile. "Welcome, Miss Kendra," he said, accepting her gifts. "The family is in the garden." When Kendra entered the garden, she was met with a heartwarming sight. Andre, walking with just a cane, was playing with his 3-month-old daughter, Favor. Angela smiled from her chair, watching them. Upon seeing Kendra, she stood to give her a hug. "I'm so glad you're here, Kendra. Favor's been waiting for her godmother." Kendra took Favor in her arms, smiling as the baby giggled and reached for her hair. "Hello, Princess," Kendra said, her heart swelling with love. Angela teased. She already has her father's determination. John, leaning on his cane, added, and her mother's beauty. As guests arrived, Kendra observed the joyful scene around her. Dr. Anderson, now a senior consultant for the Bing Foundation, approached, grinning. "Who could have imagined this?" he said, gesturing to the celebration. "From hopelessness to this." Kendra smiled warmly. "Sometimes, all it takes is someone who believes in us." Favor's welcome party wasn't just about celebrating her birth. It was a celebration of resilience, love, and transformation. Later, Andre raised a glass to offer a special toast. Holding Favor in his arms, with Angela by his side, Andre spoke with deep emotion. 2 years ago, I thought I was lost forever. Today, I'm here, surrounded by loved ones, holding my daughter. This miracle wouldn't be possible without the love of my wife, Angela, the dedication of Kendra, and the support of each of you." He looked directly at Kendra, his gratitude evident. A decade had passed since that unforgettable day. The mansion had transformed from a place of sorrow to one of joy, growth, and love. Over the years, time had brought growth, change, and countless achievements to the lives of those connected by Andre's remarkable journey. The Bing Foundation for Neurological Rehabilitation, born from the shared vision of Andre, Angela, and Kendra, had grown into a global beacon of hope. Under Kendra's leadership, the foundation expanded internationally, establishing advanced treatment centers and funding groundbreaking neuroscience research. On a bright spring morning, Kendra entered the foundation's newly built complex, a sleek, modern facility that contrasted with the classical Bing Mansion, now repurposed as a museum and research hub. In the lobby, a prominent photograph of Andre taking his first steps after his accident was displayed beneath a plaque that read, "Believe in the impossible." "Good morning, Dr. Kendra," the receptionist greeted warmly. Kendra still found it surreal to be addressed as Doctor, an honorary title awarded by Harvard University in recognition of her transformative work in neurorehabilitation. Walking through the bustling halls filled with doctors, therapists, and patients, Kendra felt a deep sense of pride. Each face she saw represented a story of resilience and recovery, a testament to the foundation's impact. In her office, a stack of reports and letters awaited her. Among them was an elegant cream-colored envelope, an invitation to Favor's 10th birthday party. Opening it, Kendra smiled, her thoughts drifting back over the years. Andre, once bound by physical limitations, now lived a full and meaningful life. Though he still relied on a cane for extended walks, his recovery had defied expectations. Today, He inspired others as a renowned motivational speaker, sharing his story worldwide. Angela, too, had transformed. Discovering her passion for painting during Andre's recovery, she created works inspired by their family's journey, gaining recognition in the art world. She now balanced her artistic career with managing the family business. Their daughter, Favor, born amidst hope and renewal, had grown into a thoughtful and compassionate child. At 10, she already displayed a special sensitivity to individuals with unique needs, often joining her parents at the foundation to connect with patients and families. Kendra's personal life had also taken a joyful turn. 5 years earlier, she met Derek, a Swiss neurosurgeon, at a conference in Geneva. What began as a professional connection blossomed into love, and the two were now happily married, balancing their careers with a life full of shared purpose and adventure. Her reflection was interrupted by a knock at her door. Dr. Anderson, now graying but as sharp as ever, stepped in. "Kendra, we have an intriguing case," he said, referring to a new patient with challenges similar to those Andre had faced. "I thought you'd want to take a look." Kendra's focus sharpened. Each case reminded her of why she had committed her life to this work. As she followed Dr. Anderson through the corridors, she marveled at how one decision, taking on Andre's case, had changed not only her life but also the lives of so many others. The day flew by with meetings, consultations, and moments of connection. As Kendra prepared to leave, her phone rang. It was Angela. "Kendra, darling, I hope I'm not disturbing you," Angela said warmly. "Andre and I were wondering, could you and Derek come over for dinner this weekend? Favor is excited to show you her latest science project." Kendra smiled at the familiar, welcoming tone in Angela's voice. "We'd love to. I'll confirm with Derek, but I'm sure he'll be thrilled." After hanging up, Kendra glanced at her desk. Her eyes fell on a framed photograph, a family picnic in the Bing Mansion's garden. In the picture, Andre stood proudly, his arm around Angela, while Favor sat on Derek's shoulders, all of them laughing under the sun. The image radiated love, joy, and resilience, a reminder of the extraordinary journey that had brought them together. As Kendra walked to her car under the twinkling Boston night sky, she reflected on how far they had all come. She had arrived at the Bing Mansion as a determined young nurse, unsure of what lay ahead. Now, she was part of an extraordinary family, the leader of a world-renowned foundation, and a voice of hope in the field of neurorehabilitation. Above her, the stars sparkled like the countless lives their work had touched, each one a testament to the belief that even in the darkest times, miracles are possible. As Kendra drove home, eager to share her day with Derek, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The road she had traveled wasn't without its struggles, doubts, challenges, and moments that seemed insurmountable. Yet, each hurdle had brought her closer to lives transformed, to smiles restored, and to a future brimming with hope. Under Boston's starry sky, alive with possibility, Kendra was certain the story of Andre, Angela, Favor, and their shared journey would continue to inspire countless others for generations. A quarter of a century had passed since Kendra first entered the gates of the Bing Mansion. Time had left its marks, but also enriched their lives with unforgettable experiences, remarkable achievements, and bittersweet goodbyes. The Bing Foundation for Neurological Rehabilitation had grown into a world-renowned institution. What began as a dream forged in adversity now bustled with energy, progress, and, most importantly, hope. On a crisp autumn afternoon, Kendra, her hair streaked with silver, but her eyes bright and curious, strolled through the Foundation's gardens. The grounds, a harmonious blend of the old mansion's timeless charm and cutting-edge modern facilities, were a testament to their extraordinary journey. As her steps carried her to a bench beneath a large oak tree, she saw Andre sitting there. The years had softened him with a gentle wisdom and a profound sense of peace. "Kendra," Andre greeted her warmly, his smile as familiar as ever. I was just thinking about you. She sat beside him, comforted by the presence of someone who had long since become family. How was the board meeting? She asked, noticing the spark in his eyes. Fantastic, he replied, the excitement in his voice unmistakable. They approved the new research initiative on neural regeneration. Angela is over the moon and already planning an art series inspired by it. Kendra chuckled, picturing Angela at her canvas. Over the years, Angela's artistic talents had flourished, her evocative paintings bringing solace and strength to patients and admirers alike. And favor? Kendra asked, thinking fondly of her goddaughter. She's amazing, Andre said, his pride evident. Her presentation in Tokyo was a triumph. Sometimes I wonder if she's shaped more by what we've taught her or by the resilience she's taught us. Kendra smiled, recalling Favor's growth from a curious child into a brilliant neuroscientist, tirelessly advancing the boundaries of rehabilitation science. With a contented smile, Kendra thought about the legacy they had built. The Bing Foundation, born from a miraculous recovery and fueled by love and determination, would endure, changing lives long after they were gone. In that moment, she knew with absolute certainty that her journey had been worth every challenge, every triumph, and every tear. As they began documenting their incredible story, Kendra realized that this was only the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter filled with hope, growth, and endless possibilities.